We are live. WWE Survivor Series 2021 has just gone off the air. I mean, there have been certainly better pay-per-views this year. No doubt about that. There have been a significant amount of better pay-per-views this year. Where do you even go from there? Honestly, where do you go from there? You know, I think that is that was disappointing. Obviously, I've seen that already. A lot of people are talking about having no Rock. They're saying, "Oh, no Rock. Did we play ourselves? I can't believe there was no Rock. Why wasn't there any Rock at the show?" I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not saying this like, "Oh, I told you so" or anything like that. I don't think I ever expected The Rock to appear tonight, because and again, it's kind of a case of shame on us, I guess. You know, we fell for it. We fell for is the Rock going to be there? You know, The Rock is the Rock going to show up? Maybe is The Rock going to show up? All this kind of stuff. I'll just put a thing in the chat. Thoughts on the show, so people can get. Let me know your opinions as always. Let me know what you thought about tonight's event. I am actually quite curious to see what you guys thought, because it just wasn't. For a show that, as I mentioned just as we were wrapping up a second ago, for a show that had no build, nobody cared about. And going into it, you know, the whole idea of, you know, brand supremacy and the whole idea of, is so-and-so going to be loyal to their brand, or how are they going to be feeling about defending their brand, or they're representing Raw, or they're representing SmackDown. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. How can anyone represent a show or a brand that they've only been on, that they've only been on for a couple of weeks? And I think there was, you know, a couple of okay matches on the show, but that, make no mistake, you know, as someone that grew up with Survivor Series being a big deal, that was a big deal. That wasn't a big deal tonight. That was just, it was kind of nothing really as a show. I mean, certainly that main event, like, the match was good, and I think Reigns and Big E won the crowd over towards the end, but for a lot of that match they were silent. In that 5-on-5 women's elimination match, they were doing the Mexican wave. They were doing CM Punk chants. I'm not advocating that. I don't normally like that or anything like that. But the match was dull. It wasn't good. And it kind of felt like that the entire show. It felt dull. You got Vince McMahon running around with an egg. What that means, who knows at this point. Who knows at that point. It just felt like a bland pay-per-view. And how long, you must wonder, how long can WWE do these shows, or make these pay-per-views where they're just like, well, people are just going to watch anyway because it's Survivor Series. It doesn't matter what we put on, or it doesn't matter if we don't build to it. It doesn't matter if we don't really do much going into it. It doesn't matter if brand supremacy doesn't mean anything. Battle of the Brands, so what? Okay, Raw won. Reigns represented SmackDown. He won for his brand, but it doesn't mean anything. You know, bless Pat McAfee and all that. They're at ringside on commentary going, yeah, go my brand, go Raw, go SmackDown, but like it means anything. Like it means anything at all. And some of the finishes on this show as we had 4 people counted out. Four people counted out in those Survivor Series elimination match. That's nuts. And that's so lazy. You know, devoid of creativity. And that's what this show kind of felt like. Just devoid of creativity, devoid of anything really that felt significant. It was just, as I mentioned, it was just dull. It was just a really dull show. I thought the opener was great, but apart from that, remember this is meant to be one of the, the big four, one of the big four events. It certainly didn't feel like that at all. It really didn't, which is disappointing. It is disappointing, no doubt about it. We'll get into the matches. So the first one was on the Kickoff show, and this has frustrated me as well. And there's so much frustrated me about this show, these matches, all this kind of stuff. First of all, this incredibly frustrated me. Why is this match on the Kickoff show? Why? I would get it if you had this stacked card. I would get it if you had this super stacked card that was just, you have to. Of course, it'd be on the Kickoff show because the card's so strong. But when we had that Battle Royale in this show, a Battle Royal which, by the way, was a glorified Pizza Hut advert, had nothing to do with pro wrestling. They were throwing pizza into the crowd and eating pizza, or doesn't the pizza look nice, and all this kind of stuff. That's what they were doing there. It had nothing to do at all. Had nothing to do at all with, the actual match itself or pro wrestling. It had nothing to do with that. And yet you have a match between the two, the Intercontinental Champion and the United States Champion. Yeah, that should be on the Kickoff show. Now, the match itself was nothing to write home about. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a particularly good match or a particularly great match. It was just a match. That's what it was. But the finish, the finish of this one. So basically, throughout the whole match, Damian Priest is doing his thing, and you've got Rick Boogs at ringside playing the guitar, and every time he would get like a headlock in, or he'd do something, he'd go to the top rope, what happened? Rick Boogs starts playing the guitar. Okay. He starts playing the guitar. Eventually, like everyone just gets annoyed with this and goes, why is this guy constantly playing the guitar? So eventually, he goes outside, grabs the guitar off Rick Boogs, snaps it in half, and then hits Shinsei Nakamura with it. Nakamura wins by disqualification. Why? Especially when obviously the story of this show was meant to be that Raw wins these matches, and apart from the main event, because Roman Reigns, and he's the shining light for SmackDown, because he saved SmackDown from getting cleanly swept. So why would you have SmackDown win on the Kickoff show? It's almost like brand supremacy and brand stuff doesn't mean anything. And that's what it was like. It doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. And they're talking about how, Damian Priest, he hasn't lost since he's gone to Monday Night Raw and all this kind of stuff. So why would he lose by DQ? Why? Just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Just made 0 sense. 0 sense. And again, the match itself was, fine. Nothing to really write home about. But it was just off. And that kind of is the theme for this entire show. It really is. We'll move on to the opening match of the show, which was Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. I think it was the best match of the show. I think it was the best match of the show. Certainly was the match that the crowd was into the most, without a doubt. It was stiff. I think they definitely played into that there's legitimate heat between these two. They played into that very well. Again, the crowd was red hot. Wasn't massively hot on the finish, to be honest with you. So the finish basically is Charlotte Flair goes for a roll-up. She grabs the ropes. The referee spots. Becky Lynch then counters that into a roll-up of her own. She takes a look around. Referee isn't looking. She grabs the rope. She gets the win. The weird part of this is after the match for me, because the weird part is Charlotte Flair basically does an Austin Aries. She kind of just gets up. She just gets up, looks around, doesn't sound that she's annoyed, doesn't sound that she's bothered, doesn't sound that she's upset with the referee of, oh, you should have caught the hand on the rope, you should have done this. She just picks up a title and just kind of walks off. She did a bow to someone at ringside. I don't know who that was to. She did a bow to someone at ringside and all that. You had Becky Lynch start shouting to the camera, Charlotte, you can start talking to the dirt sheets, blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, that felt odd, and obviously, you could be saying, oh, and you're a massive mark. You're falling for it. I can't believe you're falling for it. How have you fallen for it? They're working you. But it did feel weird, and I have no doubts that there is friction between them. I don't know how legitimate that all this mega heat between them is. I have seen that there's this video of Becky Lynch looking quite emotional after the match. I haven't had the chance to see it, so I don't know, but I have heard about that. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see about that. But it was definitely the match of the night, no doubt about that. Irrespective of them obviously not getting on at the moment, irrespective of all of that, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch have great chemistry. Absolutely great chemistry, because it was the match of the show. The crowd was red hot and the crowd was into it, and Becky Lynch was laying her stuff in, so was Charlotte Flair, which I appreciate, and they were going at each other. You know, a couple of the things weren't completely crisp, and there was a couple of things that, you know, Charlotte Flair did her moonsault to the outside that she basically missed and all that kind of stuff. But the crowd were into it. The finish, this was almost the hardest finish to call, to be honest, wasn't it? Because going into it, I felt every match was relatively predictable, but this was the one which you went, well, it could go either way. I think it's probably the right call. I think it's probably the right call for Becky to win, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was the match of the night. Easy match of the night. And the crowd were into it. Again, the finish I felt was sloppy, and I felt afterwards Charlotte Flair's reaction was very bizarre. Very, very bizarre, and I didn't really get that, and maybe there is more to it there. But maybe I'm reading too much into it, who knows. Be sure to smash a like on the video, by the way. We've got over 60 people watching, nearly 70 people watching now, so be sure to smash a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I think we're only 14 subscribers away from the target tonight, which was 5,600. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We do daily videos talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Of course, we do pay-per-view watch-alongs and pay-per-view post show streams like we're doing right now, even though it's like nearly 5 a.m. in the morning and I gotta be up tomorrow morning, but we do it because we love the game. That's what we're doing. So we'll move on from that one. But again, I thought this was the match of the night. And when the problem is, when the match of the night is the opening match, what does that mean? It's all downhill from here. And that kind of what it felt like, certainly. Talk about the men's 5-on-5, which was next. Team Raw defeats Team SmackDown. We'll go through the eliminations in order. So Kevin Owens, they kind of planted the seeds for this story on the Kickoff show. So they're doing the Kickoff show and all this kind of stuff, and Kevin Owens goes up to Caleb Braxton or whatever and says, you know, well, people have thought of me, but I'm going to prove that I'm loyal to my team and I'm going to show you who I really am tonight, etc., etc. So obviously Kevin Owens is like, don't worry, I'll start the match. What does he do? Kevin Owens just leaves. He abandons his teammates. He walks off. So the Kevin Owens heel turn is properly happening. Of course, he attacked Big E a couple of weeks ago. This Kevin Owens heel turn is fully cemented. So that was count out number 1. And you have to count the countouts on this show. You really do. Because the countouts on this show, they continue and it's ridiculous. So Kevin Owens is the first to be eliminated because he just walks out. Next person eliminated was from SmackDown. Happy Corbin was eliminated by Finn Bálor. Next person eliminated was King Woods, who was eliminated by Bobby Lashley through the submission for the Hurt Lock. The next two, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, they were both eliminated. How? By count-out. It's a recurring theme, isn't it? It's a recurring theme. That's how, basically, if you were a top-level star tonight and you were booked in a Survivor Series tag team match and they didn't know how to get you out of the match, I don't know if the agents are talking to each other. I don't know if Bruce Pritchard and Vincent McMahon, they just went, how can we eliminate you? They goes, why don't you just get counted out? And they go, well, Kevin Owens was counted out earlier on. He walked out. Oh. Well, how's Sasha Banks get eliminated tonight? Well, she's going to be counted out. They go, oh, screw it. Everyone just get counted out. I mean, it's just lazy. It's just lazy. And that's what bothers me, because you've got a ginormous creative team. You've got a creative team. You've got producers. You've got coaches. You've got wrestlers. You've got Vince McMahon. You've got directors. You've got all of these people with all of this experience. And the best you can come up with is the same finish 4 times on the same show. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is that? And I don't necessarily blame, the wrestlers. I'm sure the wrestlers could come up with something different if they wanted to. But it's this stubborn old man, Vince McMahon, that they've come up with, and they've gone, sorry, sir, by the way, lots of other people got counted out tonight. Maybe we could do something different. No, count out. It's what I want. Then what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do with that if that's all you want? Oh, yeah, it's just a count out. So it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I get it. They want to protect the talent. We don't want to have Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre get pins. So let's protect them. They can get counted out. Fine, but don't do it with someone in the next match. When it comes to Sasha Banks, don't do it in that match either. Or don't do it in the same match when you had Kevin Owens walk out and he got counted out. Do something different. Have them brawl. Go through double disqualification. I'm not keen on it. It's a non-finish anyway. But I'd much rather than do the exact same thing again. That's just lazy. It's just lazy. And it goes to show that this company, for all of its creative team that they have, the writers on the road and the writers at head office and the producers and the agents and all this kind of just corporate BS, they can't come up with a different finish in the same match. Laughable. Absolutely laughable. Speaking of Bobby Lashley, by the way, I can't remember what match it was, but after one match, we just saw a Bobby Lashley vignette that lasted about 2.5 minutes. Why? I have no idea. I thought at one point it was meant to be like some kind of deal that they were going to be like, oh, it's a WWE 24 documentary. No. They just, in the middle of Survivor Series, after a match that had nothing to do with him, we'll just show a Bobby Lashley vignette. Why? I don't know. Just what better time than right now to go through the life story of Bobby Lashley? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that they're trying to sort of keep him in the spotlight after his WWE Championship reign, but why? Why that vignette there? It's just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. So after Lashley and McIntyre were eliminated by countout, you then had Finn Bálor eliminated by Sheamus. Austin Theory was then eliminated by Jeff Hardy, which then left Jeff Hardy and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins eventually eliminates Jeff Hardy after Jeff Hardy went for the Swanton Bomb, and Seth Rollins got his knees up and then hit the stomp for the victory. I expected, to be honest with you, I was surprised by the final four, to be honest. That's the one I kind of went, well, wow, I was not expecting that. We had a final four of Seth Rollins, Austin Theory, Sheamus, and Jeff Hardy. If you're looking at the people on the, my left and right here, you would have gone, I definitely wouldn't have expected that. You would have thought maybe like Rollins and Bálor, or Rollins and Lashley, and McIntyre and say maybe Hardy or McIntyre and like Woods as your final four, or something like that. You definitely wouldn't have gone that far. The thing I will say though, Jeff Hardy, the guy's over. He's still over to this day, still over, and he always will be over. But the match itself was okay. These Survivor Series matches tend to build to a crescendo, don't they? And I think it was the better of the two, because I thought the women's 5-on-5 elimination was bad, and the crowd was so flat, so flat during it. But this match was okay. Again, it was long, and this pay-per-view was long. But the problem is, again, those Survivor Series matches are great. They are. They're enjoyable. Like I said, they build to a crescendo. They do tell a story. My biggest problem with them, always, my biggest problem with these matches when they're trying to talk about brand supremacy is it means nothing. How can you be loyal to a brand that you have been on for just weeks? Look at these teams. A couple of weeks ago, was it 4 of the people on Team Raw weren't even on the Raw brand? Seth Rollins was on SmackDown. Kevin Owens was on SmackDown. Finn Bálor was on SmackDown. Austin Theory was in NXT. Bobby Lashley's the only guy that was in Raw a couple of weeks ago. Look at SmackDown. Drew McIntyre, he was on Raw. Xavier Woods, he was on Raw. Jeff Hardy, he was on Raw. Corbin was on SmackDown. Sheamus, he was on Raw. How can you be loyal to a team that you've been on for a month? If anything, if they swapped the teams over, that would have made more sense. And that's why you shouldn't have, if you're going to do brand loyalty, which means nothing in this day and age, because whilst there is a brand split, it doesn't mean anything. Why have Survivor Series right after the draft? How can you be loyal to it? It's illogical. Absolutely illogical. So the match was good, but it doesn't mean anything. And it's one of those things of like, you can enjoy the match for good match quality and all that kind of stuff, but if there's no stakes, and there is no stakes, ultimately in this tonight, I guess it was good because, I don't know, Reigns saved it for SmackDown, but Raw won overall. But are they going to brag tomorrow? Yeah, we won. Yeah, we won. We won, so that's good, right? We won, so we've got bragging rights. What bragging rights? What rights are you bragging on? That you won on a night? There was nothing. It's not like you won, the 30th pick in the Royal Rumble. It's not like you won something else. You won nothing. And that's my biggest problem with it. It really is. Be sure to smash a like. We've got over 200 people watching. Be sure to smash a like. We've only got 32 likes. See if we can get those likes up. And be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned, we are like 15 away from our subscriber goal, which was 5,600 tonight. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let's move on into, again, this is why I was saying it just went downhill. This is what I was saying, it went downhill. Because after this, you had this battle royal that just had no business being on this show. And this is why I was saying, Priest versus Nakamura, it didn't blow me away on the Kickoff show by any stretch of the imagination. But if there was ever a match that should have been on the Kickoff show, it was this battle royal. Why was it on the show? Because they were doing the Rock stuff, right, I guess. And this is what it was. It was a dual-branded battle royal. Surely it would make sense that you would have an even amount of people on both sides, but they didn't because it's 25 men, so you can't divide that by 2 unless you've got half a guy in the ring for each Raw and SmackDown. That makes sense. In reality, it was because it was 25th anniversary of The Rock, so they've gone 25th anniversary of The Rock Battle Royal. Okay, so bear in mind all the way through the night they're going 25th anniversary of The Rock, yep, 25th anniversary of The Rock Battle Royal. Look at all of these moments, The Rock, Survivor Series, just never showed up. They did the Vince McMahon egg thing. He might show up tomorrow, all that kind of stuff. Maybe, I guess. But no, he didn't show up. Reigns hit a rock bottom. Reigns had an interview with Vince, a backstage thing with Vince McMahon and the egg. But the thing about this match, and it had nothing to do as well, had nothing to do with Raw or SmackDown this match. Yes, they were wearing Raw and SmackDown shirts, but they weren't fighting for anything again. On top of that, it was just a Pizza Hut advert. There's tables on the entrance ramp that I thought were going to get set on fire, by the way. But there's 2 tables that had pizzas on them. There was a box of pizza at ringside. And AJ Styles gets out of the ring. He stands on the announce table for most of the match. Amos is in there, just throws everyone out. Eventually, AJ comes back in. He sort of accidentally gets thrown out by Amos, but he didn't care after the match. Amos gets the win by just destroying everyone and throwing everyone out. Nothing. It was honestly the biggest nothing match you have ever seen in your life. Now, the performance by Amos was impressive. Because big guy battle royal, Andre the Giant philosophy. It's a tried and tested way to get a big guy over. Diesel. They did it with Strowman. They did it with Big Show. Any giant, have him destroy people and throw everyone out in a battle royal. That's what they do, right? That's what they do. But it was nothing, and this should have been on the Kickoff show because this is a Kickoff show match. And even though Amos won, AJ Styles came in and was happy even though he lost. I get Amos is his friend, but he was happy about that. Don't get that, to be honest with you. And then on top of that, the Street Profits steal all the pizza, start throwing it in the crowd, and their music's playing at the end. So I guess even though they lost, they won because they're throwing pizza into the crowd. What is the writing here? What is the writing? What is the logic? Illogical. Absolutely illogical. Makes zero sense. Zero sense. And actually, this might be a good point to talk about Vince McMahon and that stupid egg. Stupid egg. So on the Kickoff show, they had backstage a limo show up. It's Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon comes out. And by the way, Vince McMahon has had a lot of work done on his face. Like that. He had his face fully pulled back. Bless him. So he comes out and he's got this egg. He's got this golden egg. He comes out with this golden egg, and everyone starts cheering, egg, egg, egg. I'm thinking, we're going to get a golden gobbledygooker. We're going to get a golden gobbledygooker. We're going to get another gold gobbledygooker. It's going to be like Survivor Series all over again, 1990, but even worse. Oh my God. It's going to be even worse. I was terrified. So he's got this golden egg, and he explains later on in the show to Roman Reigns, this egg, it's from The Rock's film Red Notice, but it's the actual egg, all this kind of stuff. It's worth $100 million, even though you're looking at it, it's not. It's not. And they're doing this segment backstage, like Vince McMahon and Roman Reigns, and I was just thinking to myself, like, who on earth is writing this? Seriously, who on earth is writing this? Bear in mind, we move on so quickly because pro wrestling moves on so quickly, but this is the same company that had Zombie Lumberjacks earlier this year at WrestleMania Backlash. Zombie Lumberjacks, right? Zombie Lumberjacks. And now we've got Vince McMahon's just with this prized egg. That even he in his acting, you could tell he's doing the acting being like, I don't really believe even what I'm saying here. It's crap. And so eventually later on in the night, Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce there, and wouldn't you know it, the egg's gone. The egg's gone. And Vince McMahon goes, where's my egg? Someone's stolen my egg. Yeah, this is real, by the way. This isn't like delusion because it's 5 a.m. in the morning. He goes, someone's stolen my egg. So who find them? You've got to find who stole my egg. So tomorrow night on Raw, they're going to interview everyone who stole the egg. So every one of Raw SmackDown's going to be on Raw tomorrow night. That's what we've got to, guys. Oh, yeah, that's what we've got to. We've got to the point where to find a way to get everyone on Raw, because the ratings suck on Raw, is who stole Vince McMahon's golden egg. That is, honestly, that is mental. That is crazy stuff. If you said that in a meeting, like a pitch meeting, how can we get everyone on Raw or Monday Night Raw from SmackDown? Could we do some kind of joint event? We did the draft. We've done King of the Ring. Could we do a special episode? We're going to probably bring back Raw Roulette. Next year, we're going to do another Legends Night. And someone goes, I know. Why don't we do a whodunit? Who stole Vince McMahon's golden egg? And they've gone write it down. It makes you wonder which ideas were turned down. Honestly. So they're going to be there. Maybe The Rock shows up tomorrow night. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know. But it's just ridiculous. So Omos wins the Battle Royal. We then had the tag team match. Randy Orton and Riddle, RK Bro defeated the Usos. It was all right. It was all right. And that's kind of what the show was. It was all right. It was a good tag team match. Riddle took most of the offense from the Usos. At one point, Randy Orton was on the outside, and I'm pretty sure the crowd started chanting to Randy, like, are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? The finish was cool. Essentially, Riddle's in the corner. Randy Orton does a blind tag. Jimmy Uso doesn't realize, goes up to the top rope, goes for the splash on Riddle. In midair, Randy Orton turns it into an RKO. I was surprised, to be honest, that RK Bro did win. I thought you would keep the bloodline strong, but I guess considering it was a historic match for Randy Orton, he broke the record. It's the most ever pay-per-view matches of an active or of any WWE superstar in history. So you have to give him credit for that. You absolutely have to give him credit for that. Because it's an incredible record. I was saying it before, like people talk about Randy Orton over the years. People talk about his style or his lack of a style. People say he's boring in the ring. People say he's this. People say he's that. Randy Orton debuted in 2002. That same year, the people he debuted with, the likes of John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Batista, incredible class of people, obviously. But where are all of those guys now? John Cena, he's a part-timer, he's in Hollywood. Batista, he's retired. Brock Lesnar's been a part-timer for years. During that time, Randy Orton has maintained and kept a schedule like nobody else. His longevity, it's well up there. I think maybe like Kane had a similar longevity. Even The Undertaker got to a part-time basis, you know. And I know Randy does a limited house show schedule and all that kind of stuff, but to be honest, you know, it's unbelievable. And Randy Orton, he can go for 5-10 more years. He really can. He looks arguably in the shape of his career right now. So I think you have to credit him for his longevity, and maybe that's why they gave RK Bro the victory. They went, look, it's a big match for Randy Orton, historic. We'll just give him the win. The Usos are lackeys, I guess, for Roman Reigns anyway. It's not about getting them over. It's about getting Roman Reigns over. So I was slightly surprised by that, but also I guess the narrative is going to be coming out of the show is that every other SmackDown star lost apart from Roman Reigns. So because of that, Roman Reigns just dominates SmackDown, and maybe they then get, I don't know, maybe they get Shinsuke Nakamura to come out and go, technically, you know, I won by disqualification, so you weren't the only one, and blah, 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 and then they do Reigns versus Nakamura. I don't know. I'm done trying to find the logic here because it's pretty illogical, to be honest with you. It's completely illogical. It's not pretty illogical. So the match was fine. The crowd popped for the finish, as you would expect, but it was what it was. It was what it was, to be honest with you. The next match, this one was tough. This one was tough because I mentioned that the Battle Royal should have been on the Kickoff show, and it should have because it was just nothing there. This match I thought was really bad. Really bad. It had some points in it. The crowd at this point were dead. And they were dead for the main event, to be honest, for the majority of it. But the crowd for this match were really dead. To the point they just weren't interested. And they nearly hijacked the whole thing. You know, we had waves. We had the wave. Mexican wave was going around at one point. Chants of CM Punk. They weren't interested. The only saving grace in this match is that they had Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. That is the only saving grace that they had. Because if they didn't have those two in this match, it would have gone completely off the rails. And that's not of the fault of the people involved. That's, I guess, the fault of WWE not having any depth to their women's division. When they have neglected their women's division, apart from, 4 or 5 top stars in Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, and that's about it. When they've neglected it so much, when you get into a match like this and the crowd really haven't been given a reason to care about any of the other wrestlers, they get bored. They don't do anything. They're just going to be sitting there, and they are going to be starting doing Mexican waves, and they are going to be doing CM Punk chants and all that kind of stuff. And that's what happened. At one point, the crowd was so disinterested that they had to tag in Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, and then suddenly people started clapping and getting on their feet because that's who they wanted to see, or that's who they cared about because they'd been given a reason to care about them by WWE throughout the year. And that's what it kind of fell on. But even apart from that, I thought at parts it was clunky. I thought it was, there were quite a few botches in this one. It went on a while because these matches do go on a while. It went on nearly 24 minutes, but it just wasn't good. I just didn't think it was good. It was bad. It just didn't work out. We'll go through the eliminations. So Carmella was first eliminated by Toni Storm. This was ridiculous as well. So Carmella, she's putting on that stupid mask. She goes out to the outside, goes to put on the mask. The people who are meant to be putting on the mask take too long. So she doesn't. She comes back in, goes to Zelina Vega, put on the mask, all this kind of thing. She takes too long, and she gets pinned by Toni Storm in a minute. So, what? What? Zelina Vega then gets pinned by Toni Storm. Toni Storm was then pinned by Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan was then pinned by Sasha Banks. You're going, okay, well, it is what it is. Rhea Ripley was eliminated by Shayna Baszler, suddenly, out of nowhere. And then what happened? So we had a situation where you had a 4-on-1 scenario. 4-on-1, you had 4 SmackDown people and only Bianca Belair left from Monday Night Raw. Only Bianca Belair was left. SmackDown, you had Sasha Banks, you had Natalya, you had Shayna Baszler, you had Shotzi. And the classic, can they coexist? Sasha Banks is seemingly in control. Sasha Banks is about to get in the ring, and she gets pulled outside of the ring by all of her teammates on 3 separate occasions. And guess what? She got counted out. Not only did they do a can they coexist, people can't coexist, they did another count out. After they did 3 in one match earlier. So they had 4 people counted out on one show. How ridiculous and creatively void and naive is that? Madness. Absolute madness. And again, I get it. You want to protect Sasha Banks. I get it. They're looking at, well, what? You want Sasha Banks to be pinned by Bianca Belair. If that's not the direction you want to go in, don't go in that direction. But I would also say don't book her in the match then. If you're not willing for someone to take a pinfall, but you want to book him in the match anyway, that's the risk you have to take. Wins and losses do matter. I know WWE think they don't. And maybe there are certain people you have to make exceptions for. But if there are people you have to make exceptions for, don't do the exact same thing you did earlier. Do a DQ, do a stretcher job, do whatever, do something else. But they didn't do that. So after Sasha Banks was eliminated by countout, you then had Belair basically just go through everyone. She pins Natalya, Shayna Baszler, and Shotzi. So she gets the victory. To be honest with you, once Belair was 4-1 down, you did kind of think like, I could absolutely see her turning this around, to be honest with you. But yeah, I thought this match was really poor. I thought the match was really poor and actually quite disappointing, to be honest with you. I did expect better. This one was disappointed. And again, the crowd was just not into it, and I can't necessarily blame them. And again, that's not on the talent. It really isn't on the talent. For me, it's on WWE because they hadn't built these characters up enough for the crowd to care. And at any points that they did care about these females, whether it be Liv Morgan or Toni Storm or Shayna Baszler or even like a Rhea Ripley, they'd had these people lose time and time again or just be badly booked or badly mismanaged, that when the time comes that they do need them to actually be, invested in the characters, they're not because they've been conditioned not to be. So yeah, it was just bad. It didn't work. It didn't work. And again, if they didn't have Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair in that one, I'm telling you, it would have been bad. It would have been even worse. Then we had the main event. Roman Reigns versus Big E. Now, I know a lot of people going into this one were saying Big E has to win, Big E has to win. For me, he was never going to win. And I said it in the watch along, and I said it in a couple other times we spoke about it here on the channel. For me, Big E was never going to win because just look, if he had won, obviously, biggest win of his career, this was biggest match of his career. If he had won, WWE arguably would have made a start. And that's the narrative of why he should have won that match, maybe. But in reality, when you've had Roman Reigns defeat John Cena at SummerSlam, and then you just had Roman Reigns defeat Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel, Big E ain't winning this match. Because the plan is to do Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. The plan is to do Roman Reigns versus The Rock at next year's WrestleMania. Big E doesn't fit into that. Now, arguably, you could say Big E should win because, again, you make a star, and that is valid, but that wasn't WWE's plan. As far as the match, at this point, I think the crowd were just tired of a bad show. I think that's what it was. They were tired of, the show was long, but also the show wasn't necessarily very good. And again, they hadn't been given a reason to care. Again, I talk about you can be excited to see Roman Reigns. You can be excited to see Reigns versus Big E, and you can be excited to see this main event. But had WWE really given us a reason to care about it? What stakes was really on the line? Nothing, apart from the win. That was it. And I mentioned going into the match too, that I was curious to see what kind of pattern this match took, because Roman Reigns matches have actually become relatively formulaic in the sense that they start slow. Basically, the Roman Reigns formula is this. The opponent might hit something early on, Reigns cuts him off, he then takes it to a grinding halt, whether that's side headlock, whether that's clothesline, pose to the crowd, clothesline, pose to the crowd. He'll get a couple of near falls. Eventually, the babyface fights back, hits their finish, Reigns kicks out, hits another finish, Reigns kicks out, and then either interference or Reigns hits a spear, guillotine, over. It's the Brock Lesnar formula that got Brock Lesnar over as a monster heel. That's the exact same formula that they're using with Roman Reigns now, and that's exactly what this match was. Big E gets a little bit off in the start. Apart from that, it was just grinding halt. It was slow. I mean, it was slow like it was at SummerSlam at the start between Reigns and John Cena as well. That's what it was. It was slow. Really, really slow. Now, eventually they did speed it up. But when I say it was slow as well, the crowd were quiet. I mean, since the WWE, they've become obsessed with piped-in noise. Since the Thunderdome era, they pipe in noise for everything. And it's one of those weird things, isn't it? Like, you hear noise, but you look at the crowd and they're sitting there like that. And people were saying on Twitter, like, the crowd's dead at the moment. They're not really doing anything. They're not really, they're just quiet. Now, to the credit of Roman Reigns and Big E, they absolutely, they won the crowd over in the end. I think there was a "This is awesome" chant, but I felt at certain points, because we had the "This is awesome" chant a couple of times in the night, and I felt like the crowd was just doing it almost to entertain themselves. It's a New York crowd as well, so I felt like they were just kind of, doing it for the sake of doing it, really. But they eventually did win the crowd over, and they did get some noise going. But again, that's because of the formula. The crowd got going because of the formula, because Big E started his comeback. He started to fight back. There was a couple of, Superman punches or whatever, and Reigns does the whole ooh-ah thing, and Big E standing there in his face. Big E did his spear to the outside, all that kind of stuff. Big E hits the big ending, but it's right next to the rope, so what happens? Reigns just put his hand on the rope break. And then the finish was out of nowhere, really. Like, completely out of nowhere, in that they're sort of on the outside. Reigns, they get back in the ring. Big E gets Reigns up for another big ending. Paul gets out of the big ending. Reigns just kicks Big E in the back of the knee. Spear, 1, 2, 3. Clean. Middle of the ring. That's it. Now, Big E did kick out of a spear previously, so some people will say, well, they were slightly protected because he kicked out of a spear, all that kind of stuff. For me, it was kind of a weak finish. It really came out of nowhere. But I'm not surprised. And again, I don't necessarily think it's the wrong call, to be honest. I don't think it's the wrong call, because I don't think it's good business right now. When WWE at the moment, they've invested so much time and so much money into Roman Reigns, in the sense that he's beaten everyone, that it almost gets to the point of they're terrified of that person to beat Reigns now. Because who do they pick? Because if it was Big E tonight that beats Roman Reigns, the pressure that's on him. Because if he doesn't draw or he doesn't deliver, they'll go, what a waste. We had Roman Reigns there and we gave that victory to the wrong guy. They're trying to find the right guy rather. And I think that's the problem. They're trying to find the right guy. And it's difficult. I think it is difficult. I can see a couple of you guys comment saying who's going to face Roman Reigns next, all this kind of stuff. I think we could see possibly, because remember there isn't a pay-per-view in December. The next pay-per-view is in January, on January 1st, that day one thing. So who would face Roman Reigns next? Possibly Xavier Woods as a TV thing. For the remainder of the year. Obviously, they've been feuding a bit on SmackDown as a build to this, so they might continue this. King Woods, but to be honest, King Woods got eliminated second in the Survivor Series match. So what makes him worthy of facing or having a Universal Championship match? There isn't one. He shouldn't be if he got eliminated second in this one. As far as any other opponent, I think the idea, wasn't it, was to be Drew McIntyre. I think eventually we'll have Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. I think that might be the main event for the day one pay-per-view, Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. But I'll have to wait and see. I'll have a look what you guys are saying here. I can say, I can see the comments, yes. I just, when we do these reactions, I sort of go through the matches and then I'll get to the comments, which is what I do now. So Jordan says Roman sucks. He's the reason most people quit watching. I don't know. I think that's harsh. I think a lot of people now, in fairness, are sort of saying not that they want something different, but WWE are starting to come up with a problem of you have to keep feeding Roman Reigns essentially, and they're running out. And my concern is that we've watched this show and it's just devoid of creativity, devoid of stakes. In previous years, what's almost got Survivor Series through things is that, it might have had a championship match on the show. Or it might have, when it had, Brock Lesnar, Rey Mysterio. Or it had, there might be some championship matches and then you go, okay, but there is a match of stakes there, I can get into that. Or they even, they even tried to make it, brand supremacy work when they had general managers and all this kind of stuff. There was none of that tonight. There was no stakes. There was no build, and it felt like that. It felt like a show that was put together at the last minute over the course of the last few weeks, and that's really disappointing because Survivor Series for me was always this, big show at end of the year, all that kind of stuff, and it's lost that. It's lost that lore, and that's really disappointing. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. We're 25 likes away from 150 likes. I'll do a quick subscriber check. See where we are in terms of the subscribers, see if we hit our goal. Wow, the goal was 5,600. We're on 5,650. Amazing, guys. Oh, that's unbelievable. I mean, even at 5 a.m., that gives me the energy. I really appreciate that. Maybe we can get to if we can get to 5,700. We're only 50 away now. Is that even possible? So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. That's amazing, guys. I really appreciate that. As we wrap things up here, we'll go for about 5 more minutes. As we wrap things up here, what was your favourite match of the show tonight? What's your thoughts? What's your opinions on the show? Was there a particular match that you thought was good? For me, I thought the match of the show was Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair, the opener. Apart from that, I really don't know. Apart from that, I really don't know. I thought it was a disappointing show, and I thought it was flat, and I don't. It's kind of indicative of WWE right now. I think that just kind of nothingness, to be honest, kind of nothingness and bland and just disappointing, with some good spots thrown in, but that was really about it. Yeah, and there really isn't that much more to say because it just felt like an abject show. But for what was such an abject show, it was still like 3.5 hours. For a show that's still 3.5 hours, having that much, just sort of coming out of it and being like, yeah, is what it was. I mean, I'm interested if I would be open to having them run it back when it comes to Flair and Lynch. I think there's more story to tell there, to be honest. When they would do that, I mean, it would have to be at WrestleMania, right? They're on different brands now. They're on different brands. It would have to be. But again, how they would facilitate that, I have no idea. I have no idea. Anyway, guys, look. I'm going to wrap it up there because it's like 5:20 a.m. and I've been streaming all day. But I really appreciate you guys' support. Thanks for joining me tonight on the watch along. Thanks for joining me here. Listen to me ramble and rant and rave in the early hours of the morning. Really appreciate all the support. I really appreciate everyone that's liked and subscribed. Again, if you haven't already, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. If you're watching this on demand as well, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about pro wrestling. And I will speak with you again very, very soon. Have a good one.